All right, Light Gamer Barstool movie review time. We are talking Gran Turismo, which on some websites it's Gran Turismo based on a true story. Like I said, Jeff Lowe, Kenjack,
Yep.
and Gooch. If you're on YouTube, make sure to hit like and subscribe. Helps out the channel a ton. Don't downvote us. Don't downlike us. It's just rude. Even if you hate us, give us the like. Come on. Gonna be like pigs just begging for that like and that subscribe. But we're talking Gran Turismo, a video game movie adaptation, maybe. It's like not really. More for title than anything. It's based on a literal story of a human playing a video game, I guess. A player wins a series of Nissan-sponsored video game competitions through his gaming skills and becomes a real-life professional race car driver. Archie Madekwe, I believe I say his name in the lead role. David Harbour, Orlando Bloom, and our good friend Jaimin Hansu in the movie. Based on, I guess, Gran Turismo, the video game, but also based on the true story of a guy who actually did this. And boy, they want you to know through marketing and through everything else that this is based on a fucking true story, which I don't know why they need to hammer that home so hard. Like it's not that unbelievable to me. Like it's like if this was a movie about a kid like riding a dragon that really happened, like, then yes, I'd say.
You know, like if it's like, hey, a 5-year-old just played in the major leagues. I mean, like, oh, that's not happening.
Right, yeah. It was like, yeah, right. Rookie of the Year was based on a true story. I'd want you to tell me because I wouldn't believe that. But this I might be like, get out of here. But then you should tell me, like, okay, I believe it. I really didn't like this movie at all. I really did not enjoy this movie. For me, bad sports movies or cliched sports movies are far worse than cliched or bad anything. We just reviewed Blue Beetle, which has a lot of cliches in terms of comic book movie tropes and stuff like that. I think this leans heavily into that with sports, like almost exact cookie cutter stuff. And I think at times corny, cringeworthy, didn't like the script. I really didn't like it. I think there's some fun stuff here. I can absolutely see why people would like this movie, by the way. Like it's that classic run of the mill sports movie. Looks good in spots. 42 out of 100. I really didn't like this movie. I did not have a good time. We'll get more into it. I did not like Gran Turismo. I was checking out. I was like, get me out of here. Ken Jack.
Yeah, I think I'll preface with what I think is the same experience for all three of us, which is that like I'm not a fan of the Gran Turismo games or of racing in general. Like I think fast cars, cool as shit. The fanaticism of the European race fans and NASCAR fans is awesome. All that's cool. It's just never been my bag. I haven't had the time for it in my other fandoms. But like the one thing I think I was really a big fan of, which I think is the same with you guys, big fan of Neil Blomkamp. I mean, guy's an absolute monster. So good at sci-fi to the point where I was pissed off that he was making this instead of making another original, making like District 10 or something like that. I think this movie, as someone who is not a fan of any of those things and was pissed that Neil Blomkamp was doing this, it was surprisingly good. And I'm not going to say, hey, wow, holy shit, this is like high 80s, great movie or anything like that. And it's not. To me, it's like a 60, I'll say like a 67. We'll throw it right at 67. I really enjoyed a lot about this movie. We'll get into it more a little bit later. I think the big points are that it's very easy to digest as someone who's not a fan of the racing world, while still using a lot of like technical terms that like I'm sure fans of the games and fans of racing will get, but they never derail it for me as a viewer. And the effects are awesome. The effects I thought were really, really cool. The blend of practical, real, and using the video game effects and sounds that I know as like a PlayStation player. All that I think was really well blended, which is very rare. Anytime you do a video game movie like that, normally that would be very standout bad. But I thought it was really cool. Again, far from a perfect movie, but way more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I'm right next to you again. I'm at a 65 out of 100. Like Jeff said, it is a very much a textbook sports underdog movie. In my review, I pointed this out. It feels like a movie that's going to play at that like 10 a.m. slot on TNT on Saturday. Like it just kind of built and tailored for that. I do think racing fans will love this movie, and if not love, really enjoy it because the racing, it looks fantastic. It's not Ford versus Ferrari or Rush in terms of like drama, but it looks just as good as those movies, I think. Like, the racing looks fantastic. The cars look cool.
Really good.
Once you get out of the cockpit, though, it's like some of the story is good in boilerplate, but then you get into the smaller relationships, like the relationship with his dad, his brother, his girlfriend at one point.
Question mark.
Yes, and you kind of wonder, what are we doing here? But when the action's happening, you are entertained. So,
and thrilled, which I think is the bigger thing there, right? Like, you need to be like a little bit like, oh shit, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
I think anything good that I can say about it be the racing stuff. But yeah.
Also, no reason to update or no reason to change the story. I guess it took place in the early 2000s, right? Like, the real story was probably early 2000s. So they updated it to 20.
This is based on a real story?
Yeah, I know. You can't believe it. A racer or a gamer went to racer. They should do the reverse in the next one. Racer to gamer.
Yeah. No way he can become pro in League of Legends.
That would be hilarious. But no reason to update it to like modern times outside of just wanting to advertise the new Gran Turismo game and the PS5.
Right.
That was the only
Which is funny
reason.
that the opening sprawl being a commercial for Gran Turismo was very funny. It's just like,
yes.
25 years ago, he had a dream. Can gamers play a racing game? It's like, yeah, I guess so. That doesn't feel that revolutionary.
Yeah.
All right. So I had a pretty low score compared to you guys. I would say we'll start with cons, but I think you guys maybe lean closer to pros. So we'll start with pros. I don't have much. I think Jaimin Hansu was really good. I always love Jaimin Hansu. Jaimin Hansu, a consummate pro, just always going to turn something in great, no matter whether it's Blood Diamond or fucking Dad Boat Serenity. He's going to do something great. I liked him in here. I thought David Harbour was good. I got the racing was nice, like some fun elements of the racing, but yeah, I don't know. It was so, yeah, that's all I got for pros. I don't got much for you there. I can't even pretend. I don't got much.
I think the biggest pros I have is that it was very easy to digest as someone who's not a fan of the sport of the game, which I think is huge.
That's fair. That's a good point.
David Harbour, I thought he's just born to play like the gruff dad dude, mentor character. Mm-hmm. That's just his thing. Madekwe, right? I think he was okay as like the everyman thrown into the spotlight because so much of this movie depends on his ability to sell that. And I think he does well there. And the effects. I mean, the effects they just rock. Plain and simple. He just Blomkamp's on a different plane of existence from almost every other director other than maybe like Gareth Edwards, where it's like he just gets VFX and how to use it correctly on screen to make shit look real. And I think the blend of all of it with, the PlayStation effects, with the CGI to what was practical, it just looked fucking real and cool. And that part of it really, it sold me on really enjoying this movie more than anything else.
Yeah, really cool use of drone shots too, which I usually do not like drone shots, but they worked very well here. Like getting to see the entire layout of like the courses, things like that. Awesome. So yeah, most of my pros come from just the visuals, honestly. I don't think anyone really stood out here. Even David Harbour, I think, is very much just kind of a stand-in.
I've seen some people say he was like great in it, and I didn't.
It's pretty regular.
I thought he was like the most average. Like, and I like David Harbour; he's a really good actor, but I think it was just okay.
I think as good as any Stranger Things episode, I guess, like performance-wise. He was just playing every character he plays.
They puked on my lawn.
Some rough scripts there, yeah.
Another con would be the gamers were too hot. They're too good looking.
Yeah, that is the biggest thing. That is the biggest thing people did not, I think, are overestimated. The amount of attractive people that play video games, especially that are really that good at video games.
It kind of bothered me. I kind of wanted them to look like greasy, nasty gamers. Like I think it would have helped the movie. It would have been funny to see them like be out of shape, like heavyweights, like trying to get these like shows. Yeah, but they were just like normal people, and some of them were very good looking. Like the guy from Never Have I Ever was in there. It's like, yeah, that guy's not a gamer. Even Jan, the guy who played Jan,
the best Gran Turismo players in the entire world. Like, no, there's just not a chance.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, They were pretty fucking hot. You're right. All of them. They were all pretty good looking people. That is, yeah.
It's a sexy movie.
Any other pros? Or you want to move on to cons?
Well, let's hit some cons.
I think the script was horrendous. which I was very surprised by. I actually thought that might be like the good part of the movie, and I thought the bad part might be like maybe the racing didn't play, like maybe it didn't look as good. I mean, that's a lot of sports movies. Like you can have good, and then sometimes they get into like the actual playing of the sport, and you're like, what the fuck? But like he's had a lot of, and granted, I don't think he was the writer on this movie. Keep that in mind. But Neil Blomkamp's like his movies, he's written those movies and they've been great. And so like I think that was like maybe a big thing. I don't know how much of the script he punched up.
He's not credited
or touched. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like I think that's kind of a whiff there. Because I do think had this had a better script and had this had like some meat to it, it wouldn't have felt so. Even you could even keep it in the cliched world of the structure of like an underdog sports movie, and it still would have been better if at least just didn't feel so corny. Like it was melting off the screen. It was so cheesy for me. Like that was my biggest thing. Like that gets me. Like sports movies, I'm turned up, but like I dislike a lot of sports movies that people typically do like. Like I think sports movies can be fairly cringeworthy most of the time. And I know maybe it's not a traditional like basketball or football movie, but it did fall into that space for me. It just hit way too many cliches. Bored me.
Yeah, actually, the writers' room had three different writers on this. Jason Hall, who wrote American Sniper, and Zach Balin, who wrote King Richard. Decent.
Yeah, that's not too much.
Yeah, I think on my cons list, I got one of the same things you mentioned. Said it's very formulaic, like nothing, just kind of like with Blue Beetle, like we were talking about before. Not much that's going to surprise you. Orlando Bloom. I mean, Orlando Bloom, man. I mean,
we haven't talked about him yet. I was wondering who'd bring him up.
It's easy to forget that this is a guy that was in like $1 trillion worth of movies in like a 5-year span during the early 2000s, but despite the fact that he's just not a good actor, he's just not particularly good at all. And it really showed off here because this is like not the type of character he should have been playing, I think, at all. He's best as like the gloomy doomy type of not speaking much character, and like this was like a very like vibrant.
He would have. By the way, he would have been the main character 15 years ago. Like he would have been like absolutely.
Yes, and he would have probably been great at that, or even I don't know. But that was, I think, one of the biggest rough parts of this movie was him being miscast as that in that role. And it's really one of the biggest issues that it's lacking a good villain. Like every sports villain or like sports movie needs like a big bad with charisma. Like in the villain, like the Kappa dude, he stunk. He was horrible. That villain, this Kappa dude, he was just like this like vaguely European dude that was like you're supposed to hate by virtue of him being rich. And like that, he wasn't like a sniveling brat. He wasn't like this pretentious dick for the most part. And like, he's just like, you're supposed to hate him. And this dude seemed like he never acted before. He was just like some of the lines he was saying to him, he's like on doing the press tour or whatever. And he's like, the gamers will never be racers. And it's like, why do I hate this? Why do I hate this guy so much? It's like, you sound like fucking Dracula, dude. Like I'm not scared by your race or lingo when you're trying to like shit talk our guy, Jan. But yeah, that was, I think, the biggest whiff was this just really not having a good villain.
Yeah, no villain, and like Jeff said, I think the script was bad. Like,
yeah,
I really think like the shining example was trying to set up that his girlfriend relationship was just completely out of left field, just mishandled. Every time they pivoted towards that, I was like, what the fuck is going on here? I was so confused. He also was like flirting with the girl driver at points. Yeah. And I was like,
right. It's the love story thing, the villain thing. It was like, the structure doesn't bother me. The structure and having the cliched stuff, like if it was done well, it wouldn't be a problem for me, but it wasn't. That was the thing for me, is it was done in such a bland way. Oh my God, that you're right. The fucking villain, man. Jesus Christ.
When he's scrolling the girl's Instagram and she's got no likes. She had no likes on any of her pictures. What a loser.
Dude, that's like, but it was so unnecessary. And I feel like so many of the good movies now just realize that that's like not something you need to add time onto your movie for. Is like a romance subplot that just adds nothing. You know what I mean? Has no really bearing on the movie.
I've never seen more Instagram stories on a fucking movie screen.
God. Yeah.
Jesus, like, dude. Yeah, I saw your Instagram story. Cool.
Let the man race. Let Jan race. You don't need to see Jan's personal life.
Yeah.
Dracula. The villain is just Dracula.
You'll never see him on the podium. Like, shut the fuck up, Jan, in your gold Ferrari or whatever the fuck he was driving. Like, that's a comically bad villain writing.
Wasn't there a Scooby-Doo movie where they had race cars and Dracula was one of the drivers? I could be misremembering.
You just act like something we would just know. Like, oh yeah, the Scooby-Doo race car vampires? Yeah, man.
Scooby-Doo racing movie?
Oh yeah, it exists. I just found it. It's a monster rally.
A monster.
Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf? Oh, no.
This exists.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Wow. No, I don't. I'm not familiar.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
Ripping in with a 20% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Dracula was a driver.
I don't know Scoob like that, unfortunately. Oh, the Mummy was a driver.
I like one of the negative reviews of this of Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf on Rotten Tomatoes is it's a negative review. Typical Scooby tale has lots of jokes and cartoon jeopardy.
Cartoon jeopardy.
I'm being deadly serious here. I'll take Scooby's team up with Jerry Reed, Sonny and Cher, and Phyllis Diller before this one.
They're wrong.
Why is there legitimate reviews about Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf?
And that guy's Widget Walls from needcoffee.com.
You got 20% on Rotten Tomatoes, and Gooch is like, you didn't see this? You know Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf? When he races Dracula?
I don't know.
That's it for Gran Turismo. Final thoughts, Gooch?
If you're a racing fan, go see this movie. Otherwise, I don't think you'll see it on TNT at some point. Like you'll see it at some point on TNT or TBS.
I'm trying to think, what's the most average sports movie in another genre? I'm trying to think of a good comp for it. You know what I mean?
Well, let's see. Let's go to our ranking for just sports movies. What would you say? Like what? Like in like the 60s or like 50s? Yeah. What'd you give it again? Remind me.
I gave it a 67.
Yeah, I was at 65.
Sports movies in like the mid 60s, like Southpaw.
I think I like
Secretariat.
Name, yeah.
Invincible.
Invincible's a good comp.
Rocky 3, Lords of Dogtown. Hell yeah. Bleed for this. God, what a bummer that was based off cast. And
Rocky 3 is better than this movie.
We have Nacho Libre considered as a sports movie. I kind of like that.
Is it wrestling?
Yeah, it's wrestling, right?
Yeah.
Hey, it's no Ed with Matt LeBlanc, but it'll do.
Invincible. There's a good comp.
There's no way that monkey will play baseball.
Yeah, my last thought to be, if you like racing, I think I'd agree with Gooch. Sure, go see it. But I think this is like, you got to be really fucking desiring a sports movie, at least for me, to like this, because I had a hard time getting through this.
By the way, racing fans, I called it an F1 movie, and my quick reaction, they are not happy about that. I did not realize this was not F1. I just saw
very much not an F1. Yeah.
Well, he was driving like one of those spaceship cars, and I was like, "Oh, he's in Europe driving a fast car."
That's what you could have said. Oh, those one of those spaceship racers. That would have really.
I have made
European
the executive decision because they are, and I like F1 fans. Shout out Logan in our office, who's a massive F1 fan. But I will be calling the upcoming Brad Pitt F1 movie. Every time we post about it, I'm going to say upcoming NASCAR movie with Brad Pitt just to piss him off.
You probably get it more if you say like the upcoming IndyCar movie.
Yeah,
like just something like really.
Or something.
Or just call it something different, never
car.
F1. Yes.
Yeah, just call it every single different type of race except for that.
What was the car thing from Jackass Viva La Bam Gumball Rally?
Yeah.
Great
endurance racers. Ooh, the fuck? I'm gonna look into
that's it. Gran Turismo, I guess. Pretty average to failing scores from us. If you want a racing movie, maybe you want something just cliche sports, go check it out. If not, it will be on a Turner network in no time on like a Saturday morning. That's it for Ken, Jack, and Gooch. I'm Jeff Elo. Make sure to hit like and subscribe on our page. Would help us out a lot. This has been our review of Gran Turismo. We will talk to you next time.